ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it is that time of the week for the Midday Market Report. This time, good friend and colleague, Mr. Nck Hathcoat, joining us from his Friday spot is Matt Grissom, taking the week off. So me and Nick are here to talk as the dogs are parking up. Maybe that's a sign for the college football playoffs to start next week, but a lot to catch up with Nick. Of course, our Notre Dame, we'll get into it once he comes on. But first and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download the app. It is free. And of course, AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Steak, seafood, chops, appetizers, wine. Terry has it all. Let him decorate your food platters during this holiday season and your New Year's Eve parties, as he is the best in the business. Any questions? Head on over to Facebook, introduce yourself to Terry Smith, and then come on to AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. So with that all being said, let's bring him in, Mr. Nck Hathcoat. What's up, Nick?
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing well. Now listen, this is the second year that you and I have done a show together. Last year, I lived through the pain and the agony of the Northern Illinois loss, but each week you guys got stronger. Not only did you make the dance, you made it to the championship game. 2025 field goal loss to Miami, and then an extra point loss at home to A&M. I said, pump the brakes, sheet out what you did. You won 10 in a row. I was the guy every week said, you're in. Don't worry about it. And the headliner, the Irish eyes weren't smiling after all. And again, that's the committee in this regards. Neither team played, yet all year you're in front of Miami, even though you lost to them. You're in front of Miami. Now, your two signature wins, if you want to say USC and Pitt. My point is, you were ahead of them. And yet you got jumped. And I guess I'm going to start the show this way, Nick. We both know not only Notre Dame, Texas, Vanderbilt, and a few others are better than Tulane and JMU. We know that, but this is the system that we're playing in. But I guess the bottom line, when you look outside and objectively, it really came down to a 3-loss Alabama team who was playing in the SEC championship and Notre Dame. So the stage is yours. You can let loose for as long as you want. Take it away.
I mean, where to start? Yeah, I think the biggest upset, is if Miami was over Notre Dame 4 weeks ago, this would not be an issue. Then we would have known head-to-head matters. Okay, they think Miami's a better team, whatever. But if their goal, and like they said, their goal is to get the 12 best teams into the college football playoff. If for basically all of those weeks you're saying Notre Dame is a better team than Miami, including last week, and then they don't play, how all of a sudden is Miami now? Now, I think Miami should be in, and I think Notre Dame should be in. Notre Dame was literally, even as of Sunday morning, had the third highest odds of winning the national championship. Third. That was ahead of Georgia, ahead of A&M, ahead of Texas A&M, ahead of Oregon. The third best odds, only behind IU and Ohio State. So you're telling me the team with the third best odds is not one of the 12 best teams in the country? Like, this is, and these are people who know, like, and the people who set the odds, as you and I know. These are people who follow the games, all whatever, 80 of them a week, and know exactly what's going on in the sport. And you bring these ADs in, and this is a bigger story, but I don't think it should be ADs anymore. Look at what's on their plate. They should be following golf, volleyball, tennis. They have all this stuff on their plate. You're telling me they're sitting there at 10 o'clock watching a UNLV Fresno State football game? No, not at all. So, and then they were saying, oh, well, like our guys had to go back and watch the Miami Notre Dame game again. What? That was one of the biggest games of the year, and you didn't watch it. So I don't know. It can be discussed. I think Notre Dame, if anything, should have been over Alabama. I think and I mentioned it on our show last week, the kind of writing was on the wall when they moved Alabama up over Notre Dame for no reason last week after barely beating Auburn, who has 5 wins. They wanted to set themselves up for this. They did. I don't think they thought the SEC championship was going to go the way it did. I mean, that was embarrassing. They had -4 yards rushing against Georgia. Georgia let up in the second half too, or it could have been worse. Like, Kirby Smart could have made that absolutely so much worse than it even was. So that's kind of my gripe is, and you see that there's been a graphic out that not a single team from 2015 on that has lost in a conference championship game has stayed in the exact same spot as the week before, except for Alabama. This is the only time I've ever done it. Look at this year. Okay, take Ohio State, IU out of it. Ohio State technically moved down because they lost, but that was 1A, 1B to begin with. BYU dropped a spot. Virginia dropped 3 spots. North Texas dropped a spot. So it's like they moved every other team down for losing in a conference championship game, except for Bama. And then Bama hasn't been playing good for 4 weeks now. Struggled against LSU, got beat by Oklahoma, struggled against Auburn, like I said, just got smacked by Georgia. And yeah, that's kind of the gripe is I think Bama should have been out. I'm fine with if they want to do the head-to-head, they should have had Miami in over Notre Dame sooner. There's no reason why to move them up now. So yeah, the gripe is kind of real, and especially if the goal is to get the 12 best teams in, they just didn't do that, and that's kind of clear as day.
And SEC bias. Listen, who was playing Alabama after that loss to Miami played the part. Now they're different home versus away, but Ty had a great run. They've been leaking oil bad the last month. As you said, they lost at home, not on the road, at home to Oklahoma. They technically probably should have lost to Auburn, believe it or not.
LSU.
LSU they didn't play.
Awful. Yeah.
Yes, and then they got spanked against Georgia. And the funny thing is, they're talking out of both sides of their neck, meaning you can't get penalized for playing in a championship game. Okay, well, you did to BYU.
Virginia and North Texas. That's what I'm saying, yeah.
And now BYU's resume, they got 2 losses this year. Both to Texas Tech, who's number 3 in the country. So again, that's the problem with these committees. And I go back to the old days when they didn't even play a championship game. It was AP and it was whoever voted. Then they got a 2-game system. Then they got a 4-game system. And truth be told, this year probably the 8-game system would have been the best, unless you wanted 16. And then there's Notre Dame, there's Vanderbilt, there's Texas, and then we would have been screaming and hollering, well, who's the 4th, who's the last one in? So, flawed system as usual. You're taking it like a champ. We all know Notre Dame is one of the top 12 best teams in the country. It's not even up for debate. They led us on even up to Sunday, even looking at following the odds, minus
Yeah.
1,400.
1,500 on FanDuel, to make it. Yeah.
And then to sit there and someone's feathers were going to get ruffled. And if they had pulled Alabama out and put Notre Dame in, and I had said that last week, where you can quit the drama, just put Notre Dame and Miami both in, and it is what it is. Then there's no drama. Then why go to a title game if I'm going to be held against? Last year Ohio State didn't even make it to their title game, but won the championship. So Alabama, you now get to go face Georgia. Now we're going to take the 0 this week. Let someone else go in, and we're just going to get ready for the playoffs. That would have opened up a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, it really would have. And I think it's inevitable that we're coming down to, I don't know if there's going to be conference championship games unless these things else playoff related. And I think and actually it's an easy solve. I think you have, what you can do is kind of have whichever team is ranked the highest in the college football playoff ranking. Those are the two teams that play each other in the conference championship games. So like this year would have been Miami and Virginia. That would have solved everything. And I think so. It still would have been BYU. Still would have been BYU, Texas Tech. Still would have been Indiana, Ohio State. I think it still would have been, it would have been A&M, Georgia, which I think would have been a much better game. So I think you still have I think it needs to keep it alive if they want to keep it alive, which the ADs of those schools do because it's such a big money maker and they want to, but it's just coming down to it where it doesn't matter. And I know it, and this is kind of a Notre Dame thing. It's one of those where if it comes down to is ESPN and NCAA going to keep in an SEC team like Alabama that is partnered with them, that splits the money and revenue share with ESPN and with the other SEC schools versus Notre Dame, who is partnered with NBC, keeps all the money. And like last year, they made, I think, what was it? They made like $8 million last year, and the highest team last year, I think Ohio State made 2.7 because they had like split it. ADs don't like that, and that's just one of those, like, the other ADs are like jealous of it, where it's like, hey, we want our teams in because in the SEC, so Bama getting in gives them a more chance, more revenue share for all the other schools. It is what it is. It is at this point, and then we can go to. And the bigger conversation is these group of 5 teams. I haven't been a fan of it. I wasn't a fan of it when they introduced it 2 years ago or last year. I'm not now because this whole participation trophy is kind of a joke. We've already seen Tulane play Ole Miss. They got beat 45-10. We've seen James Madison play one Power 4 team this year. It was Louisville, who is probably the 45th or 50th best Power 4 ranked team in the country this year. They got beat by 14. And now we get to see them go to Autzen. Like, good Lord. And we'll talk more about that later because that's one of my plays. I don't see why this has to be such a participation trophy. These schools don't bring that much. Like, it's not like they bring money to the NCAA a whole lot. They don't bring a whole lot ESPN-wise. So I don't know why they're just felt like they had to include them just because. I don't see why, and this is bigger picture, I don't see why the group of 5 can't have their own tournament. I think that'd be cool. I think it'd be you put together the best, 8 to 12 group of 5 teams and have them play in tournament because that's more likely to bring in. You're still going to get eyeballs. Put them on different days, put them in a midweek on different days in the actual college football playoff. You're going to get eyeballs because it's still college football. People are going to watch. But I think doing these things is just like a pity party for those small schools. And I get it because they want to feel inclusive, but football, this is not basketball. This is not like March Madness where a team can go on a run and win a game or 2 games. And even March Madness, you see it. How rare do those 13 through 16 seeds actually make a Final Four? Yes, it's cool to see them in the first couple rounds. They might win a game or 2. Awesome to see. Very rarely do they actually make it to the Final Four, never win a championship. And then you have, and also football's such a different sport where it's bigger, faster, stronger in football matters so much more than it does, say, basketball or baseball with Murray State last year. It's such a different sport. And these teams, especially now, you think about the NIL era, the teams aren't as good. Like even the group of five teams aren't as good as say, like you look back at people are bringing back the old like Boise State teams, and they're bringing back some of those old like the old like Hawaii team that was awesome. And they're bringing back some of those like teams of the past. Those teams aren't the same anymore because you look at if somebody plays well in a group of five and is an underclassman, guess where they're going? To a Power Four team literally the next year. These rosters just aren't the same as they used to be, and it's going to be even worse moving forward. So I don't think that should be a thing where it's like, oh well, we just have to have a group of five team in because nobody wants to see spreads of 17 and 21 in a playoff game. We just don't.
A couple questions I'll ask before we get to this week's Nick Nuggets. You got an escape clause next year, I guess, huh? If you finish inside the top 12, you're guaranteed a spot.
Yeah, so that was done 2 years ago, and it was planned out for this year just because of a TV contract thing. And it was actually the SEC and the Big Ten that were they everybody's like blaming Notre Dame for it. The SEC and the Big Ten were the ones that proposed it, and said like this should be Notre Dame because when they said it, like they said, well, we want to get like whatever four SEC teams in, we want to get 3 Big Ten teams in, and then the ACC, Big 12, and then it's like okay, well Notre Dame has to be involved somewhere, just being because powerhouse money talks. Once again, we're back to the money thing. It just talks. So yeah, and if like I said, if it's the 12 best teams, and no matter who's ranked in the top 12, they should be in next year. Like that's my thing. Like why is that an issue? Like if Alabama's ranked in the top 12, they should be in the playoffs automatically. If the same name's ranked in the top 12, like why is it? I don't know why it's a thing where it's like, oh, if they're ranked in the top 12, they should automatically be in. Everybody ranked in the top 12, like the top 12 are the teams that should be in my opinion. So that's my whole take on it. But yeah, their schedule next year is kind of a joke, and it actually is funny. But also, okay, and I don't know how many people are watching this, but this is the misconception of Notre Dame doing their schedule. People don't understand Notre Dame has literally 4 games to choose to schedule. 4, literally 4, because of the rivalry connections they already have that have been based out for 50, 60, almost 100 years for Navy. Those are locked in. They cannot change those. ACC schedules 5 games for Notre Dame. Notre Dame cannot, it's not Notre Dame's fault that those ACC teams turned out to be awful this year. That is not their fault. So Notre Dame scheduled 4 teams this year. Do you know who those 4 teams were? They were Miami. Miami was not one of those auto ACC bids because this was like a 2020 schedule or 2021 schedule where they were already built in and like contracted down the road. It was Miami, it was Texas A&M, it was Arkansas, and it was Boise State. Imagine any Power 4 team having that as your non-conference games. Everybody be like, whoa, what a schedule they put together in the non-conference. This is insane. But since Notre Dame does it, it isn't looked at that way because of the ACC games they have, because of Navy that they're contracted to, because of Purdue they're contracted to. USC ended up being a great one, but they're contracted to them too. Yeah, so it's just a misconception that way. And then I just because we haven't gotten to it before, and I know this is where a lot of complaints are about like Notre Dame opting out of the bowl game. Yeah, they're going to opt out of a bowl game. Like, why would they not? And people are calling them crybabies and all stuff. But if you notice, the ones calling them crybabies are all the ESPN talking heads. Like, it's all like mainly the ESPN guys, like all those guys that are contracted through ESPN and on their shows, because it's an ESPN game on ESPN, that they want to take advantage of Notre Dame's fan base and team to let them earn money off after just like snubbing them out of the playoffs. Why would Notre Dame do that? The recent calculation was ESPN is going to lose $57 million on Notre Dame backing out of that game, which I think is hilarious and well-deserved. So, of course, people are going to complain about it. But, yeah, like why should Notre Dame, who's contracted with NBC, all of a sudden go heads and tails to all of a sudden make ESPN happy and play in that game? Just absolutely not.
Couple little nuggets here. Indiana, Ohio State.
Yeah, man.
We talked about the Heisman Trophy as well. A lot of people said if it was a grab-ass type of game that Pavia would slip in the back door. Thoughts on Indiana, the number 1 seed, upsetting Ohio State number 1?
Yeah,
And
they look good.
and number two, thoughts on the Heisman?
Yeah, I mean, I think last year, kind of going back to last year, you looked at Indiana and everybody said, okay, well, they hadn't played anybody up until Ohio State, and Notre Dame kind of got stomped. And all that was because of, it wasn't their quarterback, it wasn't skill position guys. It was offensive and defensive lines for Ohio State and Notre Dame dominated those two games. You look at it this year, that IU offensive line and defensive line is real. Like they were 6 sacks all year, and Indiana had 5 through the first 3 quarters. I think they ended up with 6, maybe, or 7. Absolutely dominated the line of scrimmage. They look great. They lost Omar Cooper, who's the number 2 receiver. They lost him in the first quarter with that ankle. It looks like an ankle injury. No news on if he's going to be back. I would assume so, since they have 3 weeks off, as long as it's only sprained. But yeah, they look like the absolute real deal. Now they kind of it's going to be interesting. Their path is not going to be easy. They're going to get either Oregon or Texas Tech. I assume it's going to be Oregon, but Texas Tech has kind of been surprising this year. So that's going to be a pick 'em type of game. And then IU probably facing off against Ohio State again. So I think we're getting that game twice. As much as we talk about parity throughout the whole season, it does seem like those two teams, like IU and Ohio State, just from watching that game, like all weekend long, we watched Texas Tech BYU, we watched Georgia Alabama, and then the difference in the game between Indiana Ohio State was like, okay, this just feels different. Like it feels like these two teams, or you could just tell they were the 2 best teams of the weekend, and they're facing off against each other. Yeah, so I think IU has a real legitimate shot. And even as a Notre Dame fan, like being in Indiana, everybody's like, "Oh, wouldn't you root against IU?" Like, no, this isn't the same. Like, this, we don't recruit against each other. This is not there. It's 4 hours of. It's literally 4 hours of difference. They're not rivals. Like Notre Dame, IU don't play each other in anything except maybe basketball every 2 or 3 seasons. So no, there's no rivalry there. I would love for an Indiana team to win it. So I think that would be awesome. Heisman wise, if you were keeping up, I had just every once in a while I would check the Heisman race throughout the game. At one point, Pavia got to minus 175 that I saw, and I think it was like towards the beginning or middle of that third quarter, where it's like, okay, like both these quarterbacks don't look great. Julian saying it looks like Ohio State's going to win, and Julian saying has not been good. It's been all Jeremiah. I mean, Jeremiah Smith's a cheat code, so that kind of makes it unfair for him. So yeah, I think it was Pavia's until those last few drives for IU. I think you look at that throw to Surratt in the corner, just on the money, under pressure, hits him perfectly, and then the deep throw on third, and it was like 3rd and short. Decided to throw it. They trusted him to throw it deep. He did. Put the perfect right of the shoulder. I think that kind of ended it. And then also the storyline of he literally looked like he got sent to the moon on the first play of the game, whereas like, oh my gosh, well, I was like, well, we were hoping for a good game, and now we're not even going to get the quarterback anymore because he got driven just through the ground. Yeah, and then to come back out there and play later. Yeah, I think it's Mendoza. I think it's Mendoza's, and I think part of it, if he was on a different team, I doubt it. But I think part of the narrative is, and it should be, is that to lead Indiana to 12-0, first Big Ten championship since 1945, #1 overall seed. I think that's a big enough storyline. This isn't even being homerism. I think the best player in the country is still Jeremiah Love. I think very few people would refute that, where it's like, if you actually just look at somebody, it's like, okay, this is the best player in college football. Like, he might not put up the stats because Jadarian Price is there with him. He's probably going to be the 2nd or 3rd running back taken of the draft, happens to be in the same backfield. But yeah, I really do think it's Mendoza's.
All right, let's get to it. Knicks Nuggets for this week. Here are Miami versus Texas A&M under 52.5, Ole Miss minus 16.5, and Oregon minus 20.5.
Yeah, I love those little Nuggets. Yeah, under 52.5. Kind of mentioned that they're lower tempo. We've also seen A&M recently, their offense has not looked great. It wasn't just that Texas game. We saw like they almost should have gotten beat by, I don't know, we keep talking about A&M, but look, they should have lost to South Carolina. Like, we talk about that. People have forgotten about that 30-3 game at halftime. But then they just clicked in the second half. And then I think they came back to bite them against Texas. So the A&M offense is a little bit overrated. Their defense, I think, is a little bit underrated based on the schedule they've played. And then Miami, Carson Beck on the road. We've seen it so many times. I don't trust them a whole lot. I also think Miami's going to try to stick to their ground game a lot because of that. So I really do think this is going to be low scoring. I don't think it's going to look like it's not going to look like Ohio State, Indiana in terms of that. I think it's going to be more of like the BYU Texas Tech type of game where it's going to be both teams are going to try to establish the ground a lot, and the clock should keep moving. I believe Texas A&M wins here, but I don't like that spread at 4. I think it's moved down to 3.5 now, but yeah, I just really like this under. The next two are fairly self-explanatory. It just makes me so mad that like we even have these spreads. But yeah, Ole Miss minus 16.5. I think part of it is here. We've already seen this game happen once, and it was 45-10. So it's a 35-point difference. So why am I to think that this game, like, did Tulane or all of a sudden get 20 points better, or did Ole Miss is Lane Kiffin worth 20 points? I don't think so because they got their offensive coordinator still there, defensive coordinator still there, and I also think Ole Miss is being a little bit overlooked because if anybody has something to prove in this, it's them. Like, hey, Lane, look what you left. Like, we want to prove it wasn't all Lane Kiffin. This was our team. This was the players. Coordinator's still there. Like I said, I think this just gets very ugly. Just like it did in the first game. I believe it was like week 4, week 5. I don't see this one getting close. And then Oregon minus 20.5. Gross. I don't know how Oregon plays their starters after like halfway through the third quarter. There's going to be no reason to. Like, this game's, that's my only fear in this is they're getting DeCorian Moore back, the awesome freshman wide receiver who's been out the last like month. And now you're getting a James Madison team traveling all the way across the country to Autzen. It's an environment they've never been in. The toughest environment they were in all year was at Louisville, which is not Autzen, especially not during a playoff game. And they got the night game. Like, this is a night game at Autzen. Everything's against James Madison here. Like we said, they've played one Power 4 team all year, got beat by 14. We just saw them against Troy in the championship game. It was 17-14 before Troy's quarterback got knocked out of the game and injured. Like, that wasn't even in the bag. So I don't see how that's close whatsoever. I think Oregon pulls their starters at middle of the third quarter. That's why that'd be the only question of this not covering. But I think it's ugly enough there. Wouldn't mind a first half bet either. I think it's 11.5 or 12. Don't necessarily hate that if you want to play it that way. But yeah, give me those two, dog. Give me those two absolutely big. And then Miami, Texas A&M under. The other game, just a kind of quick note, Bama and Oklahoma. We've already seen this one. I think is it shocking that the committee gave Bama the game if they looked at it on the field, Bama was the better team against Oklahoma in like a few weeks ago, and now they gave him that rematch that they wanted. Kind of says a lot. I don't know how to judge it because, like we've said, Alabama has been crap for 4 weeks, but also the Oklahoma offense has been crap for the whole season. So I don't know where to go on that one. The total is extremely low. It's going to be a very ugly game. I don't trust this Alabama rush offense at all, especially against Oklahoma rush defense. I would lean Oklahoma, especially being at home. But yeah, that one's going to be a full stay away.
Knicks Nuggets for this week. Miami, Texas A&M under 52.5. Number has this rate at 28-24. First one to 28 wins this game. Ole Miss minus 16.5 and Oregon minus 20.5. Again, Nick did us a solid by coming up on Thursday this week, and now we'll be back in his normal spot on Friday of next week, the 19th, as the playoffs kick off. But as we always wrap up this segment, Nick, tell them where they can find all your work.
Yeah, Nck Hathcoat 413, on my Twitter page, and then Insiders FBs, where we post all of our plays between me, Matt, and Smitty. So all the plays are there for free. These bowl games are going to be weird this year. I'm not sure how many I will have official plays on just because of it. If anybody doesn't know, the transfer portal got moved back to January 2nd. So, and we've already had people saying they're going to enter the transfer portal. That does not mean they aren't going to play in the bowl game. they could still play in a bowl game and be in the transfer portal because you can't actually enter until January 2nd. So just saying you're entering the transfer portal, you're nowhere, nothing's official, you haven't signed anything, you aren't released from scholarship, so you can still play. And so until we get closer to game time, I don't know what these opt-outs are really going to look like. Another storyline is all these coaches that are leaving to go somewhere else. How is that going to match up with all these bowl games? Like, I guess one, for example, kind of the best one that I've looked at is North Texas right now is a 3.5 point favorite over UNLV. But if Mestemaker leaves for Oklahoma State, there's no way they're going to want him playing in this bowl game. He hasn't been ruled out. Half that roster might follow him to Oklahoma State, so we don't know the case there. We don't. I believe Calandria. He hasn't said it, but I think Calandria from UNLV is going to enter the transfer portal. So there's just no telling in some of these games what these are going to look like. So I'm more of a, especially it used to be so. Remember back in the day, it used to be so easy to handicap these bowl games where it's just like, okay, who's going to care more? Like who does this game really matter for? Who's going to put their all into it? Now it's like, who's just going to have their roster, which sometimes you don't even know until literally the day of the game when it's like, okay, well, all these people are in street clothes. And it's like, oh, well, let me rush to the window now. So that part makes it tough. So hopefully I'm sure next Friday when I'm on here, I'll have some of those bowl game plays in hand. We'll be able to talk about them then once some more news kind of comes out from those standpoints. So that's why this week, I mean, those plays that I literally made those plays Sunday afternoon that I put on the show. I know they've barely moved. All they've done is cross over that kind of key number of 17 and 21. I don't think there's any 16 and a half left. I don't think there's any 20 and a half left. You could buy him down. So yeah, I just think I wanted to get those early because I know where those are going to go. And I knew Sunday, if they went in the other direction, if somehow James Madison or Tulane started taking money, I'll put more into it. If it goes the other way, if all of a sudden the spread's 28 for Oregon, then hey, maybe it's like a middling opportunity. So I wanted to get those early, and that's kind of just in the weeds market analysis there.
Yeah, and again, it's not like the old days, just set them and forget them. There's so much movement. There's so much coaching carousels, who's playing, who's not, transfer portals. It's better to be, like you just said, to be cautious. Let's sit and wait. Not that we're saying not to try to attack the best number.
Yeah.
But, you're staring at a number that you loved 2 weeks ago, and then half the team's not playing. And next thing you know, you're stuck with a doily or, basically confetti 13 minutes into the game.
Yeah, and that's why I hate, especially with what we do, same thing with college baseball, which is our main thing. I hate to give lines out like that where I'm planning on something moving, just because when we give them out, a lot of people are relying on me and Matt to just give them our bet, all they want. They don't want analysis. They don't want nothing. Tell me what you're betting, and we'll just blindly bet it. But in certain things like this, where it's like, hey, me and Matt are betting on this, plan to go this way so that we can then turn around and bet it the other way. We don't want to do that, because then it's like, okay, so somebody blindly bet this number, and then all of a sudden the number has moved 5 points, and they're stuck with that line, not knowing that me and Matt are going to buy back in or kind of try to middle it. So we kind of try to avoid that in what we do. So that's kind of that part explanation. But yes, you're 1,000% right. This is no longer late and forget it. It's like if you've made a bet by now on a bowl, you better have some alerts on or something. Have an app that alerts you when lines move, because yes, you might want to quickly either buy your way out of it by flipping your bet the other way or trying to middle it.
Go follow Nck at Nck Hathcoat 413 at Insiders FB. Follow the whole group at oh my God, brain fart. NCAA. There you go. So again, great job as always. Everyone watching and listening, we can't thank you enough. 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 West Coast time. Ron Momilevsky back talking some NCAA and some NFL, talking about the coaching carousel, the transfer portal, and we'll talk about the NFL and some must wins, and of course the showdown for the AFC East, as the Patriots currently plus 1.5 or some thoughts minus 1.5 against the Buffalo Bills. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one and only Mr. Nck Hathcoat at Nck Hathcoat 413 at Insiders FB. Wish everyone a blessed day and stay tuned. See you in a couple hours.